Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. As we see transformation in the global geopolitical environment, African nations have started to making some choices that are relevant to their survival. Africa's neighbor, Europe, has come to the realization that the continent of Africa is not waiting for Europe to an extent. It is important for Europe to understand that its most strategic partner, the United States of America, is not what it used to be. The United States' own interest has changed. The US is pivoting to other partners it considers relevant in terms of its own particular situation. That's why Europe has come to the realization that, to an extent, it is about time to start investing in Africa. However, African countries have said they want to go on a win-win partnership in today's environment. That's why we see the current European Union officials running to South Africa to look on how to start investing billions of US dollars to an extent in several areas.
The European Union has announced almost 5 billion euros of investment in South Africa. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen unveiled the plans to support green energy and vaccine production during a visit to Cape Town. South African President Cyrile Ramaphosa said the bilateral summit comes at a time of economic nationalism, referring to tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. Von der Leyen said the EU was eager to deepen its relationship with South Africa.
Today, we are together announcing an investment package to mobilize 4.7 billion euro in South Africa, and this is in both our interest. It includes funding for the clean energy transition, but also funding to boost vaccine manufacturing. South Africa wants to protect the health of its people as well as your autonomy and your local industries. We Europeans want to diversify some of our most critical supply chains, and we know that viruses know no borders. So that is what I call a true mutual interest.
African countries have said they are not moving anywhere. They have the natural resources. They will figure out a way to look for other partners. It is important to note that Africa does have its own challenges. However, if you consider the continent of Africa as a risk zone, not to put in your money, not to invest, China has proven that the continent of Africa works to an extent. So this narrative of that Africa is a risk zone, it's an area where we cannot have a return on investment, is falling on deaf ears. By perceiving the continent as a place where business do not grow, whether it's in the Sahel or in Southern Africa, it's not true at all. Europe, to an extent, has realized that the United States of America have different priorities. That's why we see all of this particular involvement at the moment. China has established itself as a major player in the continent of Africa, and I don't see China reducing its investment anytime soon. China will instead look at other options and alternatives on how to basically keep improving its investment and working with Africa. Like Wang Yi said, that Africa, there is not going to be any modernization globally to an extent without taking Africa along. Wang Yi said that. He made that statement clear. It is important that Africa, to an extent, will select partners that provide win-win, not just any kind of partner at this stage. Let the investment and collaboration not be because something is not going well somewhere. It should be an honest investment and collaboration. That's why we see EU officials at the moment are engaging South Africa, looking to see where in the continent of Africa how to partner.
DW's Diane Hawker has been covering the summit for us in Cape Town, and here is what she told us about it.
This SA-EU summit has been 7 years in the making, and it does seem that the current global political situation has been a strong motivator for this meeting. South Africa and the European Union were at pains to stress that they will go and forge a strong partnership, and part of the reason behind this partnership will be that both organizations believe strongly in multilateralism as well as support for human rights. Now, the center of this partnership will be a focus on the just energy transition, with the European Union saying that it will make available 4.7 billion euro to assist South African companies with the just energy transition. South Africa has the minerals, the European Union has the know-how, and they believe that a partnership will see both entities using their different skills to boost the energy transition to clean, green energy.
So this narrative of that it is a continent of lack of investment, or this particular narrative where we see major financial organizations like Standard & Poor and the rest have consistently, to an extent, downrated the particular ratings in some of these African countries, which has affected their development and growth in terms of borrowing. I hope that is going to change in the future. However, if this does not change, which I believe, I'm not naive to think that it's going to change overnight, it will not change. African countries should consistently start looking for partners that can provide them the win-win option. Whether it is security, whether it is collaboration, whether it is any part of engagement. The continent of Africa needs partners at this stage. However, it must be on a win-win perspective. Europe should wake up that the continent of Africa is open for business, and Africa will, to an extent, start looking inward. The continental free trade arrangement comes with a huge plus to an extent, as we see the United States is practicing protectionism.
Now, the EU's Ursula von der Leyen has a message for the US government, a subtle message that is.
We know that others are withdrawing, so here we want to be very clear with our message. We're doubling down with our support. We are here to stay.
South Africa has, of course, accepted this growing partnership, as it is also part of the G20 and is currently in the G20 presidency. It has said that it wants to use these strong ties with the European Union to ensure that more business comes not only to South Africa, but to the Southern Africa region as well as to Africa as a whole.
A number of African leaders have come to the realization that they have to cut their budget to adjust at this particular time in their survival. This is the moment, this is the time when African countries must stand their grounds to prove to their geopolitical partners that we may rely on you over the years, but to an extent we have come to the realization that you may not have our backs. It is important at this time for African countries to know that nobody is coming to save them. So if we see this investment from the EU dropping into the continent of Africa, or going to South Africa in particular, it will not be the end, because Europe has come to the understanding that China itself is fully involved in Africa. Russia is fully involved in Africa. And Europe was so close to the United States. They've come to the realization that the next 4 years will be full of condescending paternalism, what they have shown you African countries for centuries. And to have this U-turn to looking at African as an investment destination will be amazing. Again, African countries have not said they don't want to work with anybody. They are open, but the problem African countries have is don't tell them who not to work with and who to work with. This is the big problem in the global south. African nations are opened for whatever investment is coming, but it must be on a win-win basis. The current president of the United States of America has woken the world, and Africans must learn. The Trump playbook is enrolling. The next 4 years will be a more strategic period in the global geopolitical environment, and African countries must tap into this. The European Union, China, Russia, Middle Eastern partners, India, and others planning to engage Africa must be from a strategic win-win point. Otherwise, China, Russians, and the rest will continue to dominate the African market, because the African leaders, to an extent, are beginning to listen to their nationals, their citizens, because the emerging challenge in Africa with the bulging and growing middle class, millions of graduates from the university, it's not a time to waver. Africa has decided that it's about time it makes those choices that are not popular. That's why other partners like Europe and the European Union are flogging in South Africa to make sure they can put some money on the table. I want to thank you for watching. Let me know in the comment section if Donald Trump's behavior at the moment could wake up Europe to an extent and other partners who were pretending to do business with Africa, and why African countries should take advantage of this moment and stand strong and hold their grounds to have better bargains from energy to infrastructure, for a whole lot of even lending, and some of those multinational or multilateral institutions that perceive Africa to be as a risk zone. African countries should prove them wrong by standing their grounds and going to partners that can borrow them from a reasonable win-win point. For now, I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Smash the like button and have a good day. Bye-bye.